Okay, so we're done with from Mannerism, Baroque, and then Romanticism. And then from Romanticism, we shifted our discussion with the avant-garde, or referring to the modern art from from Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, Pointillism, and then we have the Expressionism. From Expressionism, we have Cubism, and then Futurism, Dadaism, and Fauvism. Now we're moving to the what we call the contemporary arts. No, so pag sinabi natin contemporary, through times, no, or kung ano nangyayari ngayon. So nakikita na yung PowerPoint.
Yes po, sir.
Thank you for affirming. I think in your senior high, yung focus ng art ninyo is something to do with contemporary art, no? Ito yung focus ng discussion, I think. So contemporary art movements nag-start yan noong 1960s from what we call pop art, no? Pop. Pag sinabi na ng pop art, we are referring to certain personalities, no? Yung mga from pop, no? And then word art, and then yung conceptualism, and then performance, and then yung Fluxus movement, then installation, and then video installation, pumapasok na, no? Yung sa computer, no? And then from video installation, we have minimalism, photorealism, yung hyperrealism, and then land or environmental art or earthworks, contemporary photography, arte povera, yan, sa recycle yan, no, arte povera, then support surfaces, contemporary realism, then post-minimalism, no? And then from that, we have the feminist art, the body art, Chinese cynical realism, neo-pop, and then the Stuckism, and then the New Leipzig School, projection art, 21st century, and then computer art. Actually, ngayon, no, into computer art tayo, or what called software art, no? Kasi hindi mo na kailangan ng paintbrush, ng acrylic, no? Mas ano siya, no, matipid, no? Of course, ang kailangan mo lang magaling ka mag-control ng kamay mo in terms of what or gagamit ka ng ng gadget na parang nagdo-drawing ka lang talaga. Okay? So this is pop art, no? Yan example, si Marilyn Monroe, no? Though this one is parang na modify. Kasi bakit na modify? Yung original niyan, Marilyn Monroe, wala naman face mask. Since because it's pandemic, kaya naka-face mask na rin, no? If you are familiar with Marilyn Monroe na singer, and then naging siya ng artist, no? Parang subject, no? So that is pop art. So pop art was both modernist and contemporary art, no? Actually, pag sinabi natin modern art, some of the modern art pumasok na rin sila sa contemporary, no? And somehow we can also mention that pag sinabi natin contemporary art, of course, ito yung distinct identity nila or ito yung parang characteristic nila. But somehow, artists in our time, magawa pa rin sila ng mga painting that has something to do with the Renaissance or what we call yung modern art, no? But that is still considered contemporary, no? Kaya lang binigyan lang ng parang identity, ito yung contemporary, ito yung modern, no? Kaya nga yung pop art, nagano siya, no? Both modern and contemporary, which based on modern popular culture and mass media, especially as a critic or ironic comment on traditional fine arts values, no? It started out of it depicting a more up-to-date reality using images of film star like Marilyn Monroe and other celebrity as well as mass-made consumer goods. But this was rapidly eclipsed by increasing postmodern focus on impact and style. One well-known founder ng pop art si Andy Warhol, no, or Andrew Warhola, no. A painter, graphic artist, and filmmaker, a major exponent of pop art, he achieved fame for a series of silkscreen print and accurate painting of familiar objects such as yung Campbell soup can, no, yung design nun, no. And famous people like Marilyn Monroe that are treated with objectivity and precision. And then later on, naging parang nag-adapt ng kanyang style ay si Roy Minnesota and Jasper Jans are also considered as leading exponent of what we call pop art. So, I'm sorry. So, contemporary art, as you can see, yan, no, pop art, no, like Mona Lisa, iba na yung approach nila kay Mona Lisa, yan, no, naging parang abstract siya, and other work like that, no. So, yan ang pop art, no. And this one is word art naman, no. So, from pop art, we move on what we call word art, no. Yung Campbell, di ko na pinakita, no, pero pag mag-search ka sa Google, yung design ng Campbell, yung lata, no? Yun ang drawing ni Andy Warhol, no? And that is pop art. And yung popular work niya, yung kay Marilyn Monroe, no? So pag sinabi natin word art, gaya na nakikita natin, no? Pinagsama-sama niya yung word and then it form an image. Actually, parang ano yan, in literature naman or sa poetry, yung parang anong tawag natin doon? Parang uh, image poem siya, no? Tula siya and then nagki-create siya. Diba, you talk about apple, no? Yung isusulat mo yung poem mo, magki-create siya ng image of apple. So that is the word art, no? Like in this example, ayan, no? Something to do with a word art, something to do with a pet, no? Or a cat. So a cat is a pet, it's agile, it has a paw, and then it's playful. It can, it has adventurous, it's brave, something, no? Pinagsama-sama yung word to form an image of a cat. So that is word arts, no? So word art is a brand new form of painting or sculpture which use text-based imagery. It's different from graffiti, no? Don't be confused. Word art is different from graffiti, no? Now, word art is associated with the artists like Robert Indiana, Jasper Jans, no? Yan ang mga parang proponent, no? Jasper Jans, On Kawara, Japanese Barbara Kruger, and of course si Christopher Wood, no? And Jasper Jans, a US painter, sculptor, and printmaker, is the key figure in the development of pop art, like Andy Warhol, who depicted commonplace and universally recognized images. No, somehow yung word art niya, yung example ng flags, number, series, and also yung kanyang ginawang target. No? So these are example of word art. Tingnan niyo si Deadpool. No? So, si Deadpool, image niya. Pero kung papansinin mo, these are composition of different words or letter, no? This bat don't swallow, superhero, chu ganyan, no? Okay? So ito, bike, bicycle, no? And then ito, art. That's art, aesthetic, prehistoric, monochromatic. So nag-form siya into a tree. But this one, ito yung graffiti, no? Tinagay ko dito yon so that we can identify the differences between graffiti and word art. Word art, sorry. Art yung na-mention ko. Okay? Concern, questions? Do you have concern or questions bago tayo magpatuloy? For now, wala. Okay. So from word art, as part of one of the contemporary art, yan ang conceptual, no? Conceptual from the word concept, no? So conceptual art is a postmodern art movement founded on the principle that art is concept rather than a material object, no? Somehow parang may pagka-dada art like Marcel Duchamp, no? Art in which the idea presented by the art is considered more important than the finished product or yung essential component. Ano ba yung concept or idea, no? Important exponent in terms of concept of art, we have Sol Levitt, Joseph Yu, Felix Gonzalez Torres, Eva Hayes, Jenny Holzer, Joseph Kosut, Barbara Kruger, and Jan. As you can see, si Barbara Kruger, no, hindi lang sa as a contemporary artist, yung kanyang style iba-iba, no? And then we have Jan T. Welly and Lawrence Wagner. Of course, Joseph Beuys or Joseph Beuys, the German artist, one of the most influential figure of the avant-garde movement in Europe in 1970 and 80s, and its work consisted as assemblages of various articles of rubbish or something to do with conceptual arts. No, yeah, these are example of conceptual art. No, Conceptual art, kung titignan mo, i-compare mo sa work ni Marcel Duchamp, no, yung Dadaism, may pagkaganon, no? Kung papansinin mo, no, may pagka-Dadais. Okay, like this one, these are CDs, and then these are books, and then, yeah, no? So this is concept, no? Somehow may similarity din siya sa installation art. But don't be confused, no? Parang mahirap siyang i-identify sa work ng mga Dadaist or Dadaism, no? Kasi, and somehow with surrealism, okay? Now, from conceptual art, we have performance, no? From the word perform, no? Performance art, as early 1960, it emerged from America and Europe. It's an experimental art form inspired by conceptual art, as well as the Dada Futurism and the Bohus in the Black Mountain College Americano. It's an art form that combines visual art with dramatic performance. It includes event and happening by visual artists, poets, musicians, filmmaker, video artists, and others. No, this art associated with the genre of ito yung kilala dyan, no, si Alan Capro as the pioneer of what called performance art. No, we have Ibis Klim, Joseph Yu also, and Namjoon Park in Korea. Ito si Alan Carpo, no? Ay, sorry. So, yung mga work niya, yan, no? This is what we call the a certain work in similar to parang may pagkadadaism pa rin, no? Ito are parang Isa, no? Okay? So this is another example. Now, from the that from sorry Dadaism I mentioned from the installation art, we have now the Fluxus art, no, movement. So Fluxus is an avant group of artists from the Latin flowing, led by the Lithuanian-born art theorist George Masunias, no, which first appeared in Germany before spreading to the European capitals in New York City, which became the center of its activities. Fluxus artists, no, pag sinabi natin Fluxus artists, sorry, they are collaborated to blend different media like visual, literary, musical into a number of involving installations, parang happenings, photography, and film. No? So these are example of Fluxus artists. No? Sorry, this one parang yung sa Japanese, no, yung tama ba? Ikagi, no? Yan, no? Okay? So this is the style in the Fluxus art. Now, from Fluxus, we have installation art. No? Yung installation parang conceptual din yan. No? A new form of art which came to attention in the United States during the 1960s. Although the idea dates back to the surrealist exhibitions created by Marcel Duchamp, no, and others, then work art were arranged to form a complex and compelling environment. An example, one known, no, C.L. Lizitzky, a Russian painter and designer, who started work in phone room, at the Berlin railway station was considered as the early type of the installation art, no, yung work ni L. Lizitzky. And among the artists, something to do with installation art, we have Bishop Fontana, Yves Klein, no? Yung group nila tinatawag Gruppe Research Art, no? And then si Ed Giol and George Segal, yung recent considered as an artist, then Rebecca Horn, Bruce Newman, Christian Bolhet, Richard Wilson, and Tracy. Okay, so this is installation, no? Oh, yung nangyari. Okay, this is an example of what we call installation art, no? So concern, question, bago tayo magpatuloy. Do you have concern or question? Before we will continue, do you have concern or questions? Wala.
Wala po, sir.
Okay. Okay. So to continue, so these are example, no, of installation. Yung katulad ng kanina, no, parang conceptual and then similar, no? And may pagkadada, no? Dadaism. So, minimalism, tingnan nyo yan, no? Napaka-simple, no? So, parang may girl na sa swing, then yung buwan, then yung puno. This is minimalism, no? Napaka-simple. From the word minimal, no? So it emerged in America in the second half of 60s. It is defined a form of abstract art which succeeded post painterly abstract to become an influence in sculpture, painting, and architecture. So minimalism characterized by extreme simplicity of form and deliberate lack of expressive content. Now, objects are presented in their elemental geometric form, wholly devoid of emotion. No? Important minimalist sculptor we have are Andre, Don Juan, Sol Leavitt, Robert Morris, Richard Serra, and so on. No? Painter include Agnes Martin, Edwin Hart, and so on. So yan, these are minimalism, no? Tingnan mo yung, of course, don't be confused na may pagkaano yan, cubism, no? Ito, abstract. Ito, simple art yan, no? Okay? So, ito, photorealism. Ay, hyper. Not photorealism. Hyperrealism. So, pag sinabi natin hyperrealism, parang very near na siya sa photography. No, kung titignan mo yan, parang pinicture siya, di ba? At saka to. Pero painting yan, no? Yan ang hyperrealism or the photorealist art. A style of painting appeared in the late 1960s with subject, people, or urban scene are painted in a highly detailed manner resembling photographs. No, ganun siya. No? Leading member of the super realist movement include Richard Este, who specialized in street scene containing complex glass reflection and chalk close, no? Among, no? And then, okay. And then the other hyper realists would Robert Vetch and so on. Huwag ko nang elaborate, no? So yan, no? This is hyper realism. Very close to photography, no? Parang pinicture mo siya. Pero they are painting. Ba yung mga yan, no? Painting yan, no? Hindi yan photography. Eh, kung hindi mo siya pagmamasdan ng masinsinan or ng mabuti, parang kana mo, it's a photography. No? Of course, siyempre, nasa land yan, land art. No? So yan, yung example, yung it emerged in the United States during 1960 using interactive landscape in order to create artistic shape or event. Yung faces in the mountain, yan. No? Pioneer include Robert Smithson, Richard Long, and Andy Goldsworthy, as well as the interventionists of Cristo and Jean-Claude. No? Yan, yung president sa Mount Rushmore, no? Considered siya as land art. So these are land art. Yan, no? Anything that you are using the land or the surface of the land, then you create art. No? And then from land art, we have contemporary photography. Yan, no? So example ng mga yan, no? Yan ang EDSA revolution. No? Bakit ba nagkaroon ng EDSA revolution? Siyempre, because of what we call yung martial law and the dictatorship of Marcos, no? And of course, yung mga photography na yan, kaya it's a contemporary photography, iba na yung style. Hindi yung parang traditional, no? Tignan mo yung style, no? Kaya tinawag siyang contemporary photography. Now, behind the scene, ayan, events that happen in EDSA 1, no? Of course, bakit nagkaroon ng EDSA revolution? Because of the declaration of martial law on September 21, 1972, during the time of Marcos, and then yung kanyang administration, hindi na maganda, no? Ang daming namatay, ang daming naging biktima ng martial law. Pag sinabi natin martial law, batas militar, no? Maraming inuhuli, dinadakip na wala namang kasalanan, and then so that's the reason, no? This event occurred in 1986, no? In example ko lang sila. So pag sinabi natin contemporary photography, photography was driven by pictorialism and portrait photography. So somehow involved dito yung documentary photography na naging wherein increases complex function photography and growing genre of still photography have been the main driving forces of contemporary photography. No? Contemporary photography is involved Photojournalism, no, if you are interested, no, in photojournalism, so those are contemporary photography. These include among the proponent, no, known. We have done McCullin, Steve McCurry. Uh, as regard naman sa best fashion photographer includes Helmut Newton, David Boyle, Nick Knight, and David Laka. And then street photography, we have Gary Winograd, Nan Goldin, and so on. No? So these are example of contemporary photography. Yan. So minsan timing, no? Timing yung inaano mo ba? Ito, timing, no? So it's something to do when to click, no? Kung may camera ka, when to click the camera. And then art povera, from the word povera means pour, no? Or something to do with parang cycle, no? Yan, example yan, no? It's named for art, no? Povera, pour, no? It was given by the Hermano Salant, who wrote a book entitled Arte Povera, and then Conceptual, Actual, and Impossible Art. No? Sometimes it was called Conceptual, Actual, or Impossible. Similar success, no? An anti-commercial style of art that was concerned mainly with physical qualities of the material used, no? Parang recycle, no? The latter typical concept or ordinary, otherwise worthless things such as scrap of newspaper, recycle yan, no? Old clothes, earth, metal, fragments, and so on. No? Arte Povera was initiated by the group of avant-garde artists in Italy, whose members include Piero Mazzoni, Mario Vers, and so on. Okay? So yan, no? Arte Povera. No? Though this one parang hindi masyado, no? Pero made of recycled material and something to do with cheap material, parang ganun. No? Parang nag-recycle. And then from Arte Povera, we have the contemporary realism. No? So we have realism movement, but of course, from the realism during the modern period, we have also what we call the contemporary. Ano naman yung contemporary realism? This term was used in its narrow sense to denote American style of painting, which emerged in the 1960s and 70s in the life work of the variety artists such as Philip Bernstein, Neil Welliver, and William Bailey. It's characterized by figurative work executed in a raw objective style without distortion or of cubist or expressionist interpretation. Contemporary realists delivered objective abstract art, choosing instead to depict down-to-earth subject in a straightforward naturalistic manner. No? Parang naturalistic artist sila. No? In its wider sense, the contemporary realism encompass all post 1970 painters and sculptors who focus on representational art where the object is to portray the real rather than the ideal. No? Kung ano talagang totoo. No? Pero hindi sa hyper, no? Hyperrealism, it's different. No? So the most interesting component of contemporary realism, we have Lucian Freud, no? Whose powerful studies of human body managed to convey both grittiness and love for earlier style of earliest painting. No? Yung kanina example, that's example. No? So yan, na contemporary realism. From contemporary, we have process art, or also known as the PostMinimalism, used by it was first used by a buzzword by American art critic Robert Pinkus, no, written when he described the work of Heba Hayes, no, as no. This is post minimalism in art form 1971. This new style known as process art was highly transient and utilized unstable material which condensed, evaporated, or deteriorated without artists having any control, no? Any control of its work, no? It became a trend as a result of the show in 1969 when attitudes began formed at the Bern, Futsal, and the procedure material as at Witness in America. No? Prominent post-minimalists, they have a his, no? And then kasama din si Richard Shera and German-born conceptual artist, and then Hans Eichner. Yan ang post-minimalism. Or process art, sorry. Yes, the post-minimalism or the process art. And then feminist, pag sinabi natin feminist, the subject is babae siya, no? Anything na parang the emphasis is about the women, no, empowerment, it's a feminist art, no. It's appeared in America and Britain where various feminist art group were inspired by women liberation movement. Parang yung kay ano no, Liberty Leading the People, pwede siyang ma-considered as a feminist art yung kay Eugene Delacroix, no. Uh, yeah, no. It's a compassion with elites, formal and impression subject matter pursued by male avant-garde artists, work by women artists offered emotion and real life experience. So British and U.S. feminist artists employed inherently female symbolic form, raising the status of so-called the female material and practices. They address the fundamental gender-based issues such as giving birth, motherhood, forced seduction, as well as the wider concerns such as racism and working condition. Specific style of female art, we have the the pattern and decoration movement in California during the 1970s. So, okay. Yeah, they reacted against the severe austerity of minimalism by juxtaposing identical or similar pattern, producing intense passion of color, texture using traditional craft technique like weaving, paper cuts, and also may pagkaparang process pa rin. Then the beautiful use of color was inspired by the French Fauvist movement in 1900s, no, in Paris, while their geometrical floral motifs were drawn from the Islamic, Far Eastern, Celtic, and Persian art. Prominent artists include American Nancy Spiro, Eleanor Anton, Jonas, Judy Chicago, and so on. Yan, example of feminist, no? Now, from feminists, we have the nouvelle subjectivity or the new subjectivity. Ito naman, nouvelle subjectivity was the title given by French curator and an art historian si Jean Clair, no? To the International Exhibition in 1976 at the Musée National d'Art Moderne at the Pompidou Center in Paris. The show featured work by American, British, European modern artists who rejected the dominant abstraction and sensationalism in modern art in favor of return of depicting the reality that things away in the modern manner. No? In their painting, they were concerned with careful observation of the real world. No? Among the prominent artists, we have English artists like David Acme, um, and then si R.B. Quidaj, no, Samuel, and so on. Yeah, no. So these are example, no, ng novel or new subjectivity. Yan. Okay? Of course, this is graffiti, no? Yan ang graffiti, no? Yung graffiti art, also known as street art, spray art, or aerosol art, yun ang ginagamit na medium, no? It's a style painting associated with hip-hop, no? Yung pagsayaw, and then yung mga hip-hop, ano? And then from the wall, nagpipaint sila to express their emotions, no? Wherein this hip-hop culture movement sprang up in the various American cities, especially New York subway train during the 1970s and 80s. So doon nagsimula yung graffiti art, no? The first generation of hip-hop boys, the frustration of the urban minorities in their attempt to create their own form of art, and they loaned stencil, marker pens, and aerosol spray cans, and wrote with industrial clay and so on. No? Yun ang, their canvases were subway, train, walls, and so on. No? Wasteland, subway, and so on. Yan, yun ang graffiti. So these are example of graffiti. So it's different from word art. Particularly canvas kasi, no, sa street sila, sa wall, no? And it associated with the hip-hop, no, yung music nila. From graffiti, we have the neo-expressionism. So kung meron tayong expressionism, very new, no? Road painting movement that occurred in the 1980s, no, is a response to the stagnation of minimalism and conceptual art, focuses on art painting, figuration, emotion, symbolism, and narrative, no, uses sense of color and convert themes related historical style and movement, no, yung Renaissance, Mannerism, Cubism, and so on, no. So figuration libre, yung movement, no, yung sa France, yung Trasvanguardia in Italy, and then yung image painter of band painters, no. Influenced by early German expressionist group like Verdureter and Libru. And then among the American neo-expressionists, we have Philip Guston, Julian Schnabel, David Salvo. Yan ang mga expressionists, no? Neo, no? May pagka, na rin, no? Parang cubism, dadaism, pinag-combine, no? Pero yung, nila, idea, is something to the express, no? Yan, neo-expressionism. And then yung Trasvanguardia, yan. Transverguardia beyond the avant-garde, coined by Achille Bonito Oliva in 1979, an Italian art critic in the Flash Art magazine. No, Transvanguard artists like Sandro Chia and so on. No, you can elaborate. No, they painted large-scale work in oil, including realistic and image-free. No, portrait, religious, and so on. Yan, mga Transvanguard yan. No, of course, this is body art. No, tattoo is an example of body art. No, si Wang Un yung sa atin. No, so body art first appeared in 1960. The first artist used own bodies on canvas. Body painting, tattoo, nail art, piercing, face painting, branding, or implant are most of the typical form of passive body arts or body art. No? In Vienna Action Group is one of the controversial group of the body art founded in 1965 by Galer Bruce, Otomul, Hermann Nietzsche, and Rudolf Schwager. No? Michael Jorniak, Katie Lacroca, and so on. Sila yung, yan, example of body. Okay? And ito yung stackism, no? Stackism art, nagsimula yan parang ano lang, no? It's a radical and controversial art group that was co-founded in 1999 by Charles Thompson and Billy Chalvis, no? Who left in 2001 along with the 11 artists, no? The name was derived by Thompson from an insult to Chalvis from its girlfriend, no? Parang kinutsa niya, no? British artist Tracy Emin, who had told him that his artwork was stuck, no? Doing nothing but painting, no? And then tinawag nila Stackism. The Stackists believe that modern art has lost its way and need to recapture its original spiritual meaning. So the creation of art involved all possible aspects of art with the finished product that is radically different from the material involved. Yan, Stackism, no? So these are example, no? May pagkaano pa rin, no? Parang pop art, diba? Ginamit ko si Madonna and so on. And then computer art, yan, example of computer art, ginagamit mo yung computer, no? Denote any art in which computer plays a significant role, no? Huwag na natin elaborate. Of course, sometimes it was called digital art, internet art, software art, or computer graphics, no? Among the well-known, we have Harold Cohen and others, no? So these are example of computer art. So yung mga naging ano ng computer art, no, yung unang exhibit, no, yung generative computer graphic, computer jump picture, and then yung computer image free, and then yung cybernetic serendipity. These are computer art, okay? And manga art is, so probably ngayon, ginagamit na nila computer, no? Pero meron pa rin ano, no, manual pa rin, no, yung sa mga manga artists, no? In Japan, no? Pero usually, para mabilis yung iba, they use computer graphic. Paintbrush, pwede, no? So to end my discussion, sabi nga, arts imitate life before, no? Likewise, it was life that imitates art, no? Parang, di ba, yung pagko-cosplay, no? So, baligtad, no? Parang dati, yung art, yung kanyang subject, yung life. Ngayon, it's life who imitate the arts, no? These are our references and that ends of our discussion. Okay, I will stop sharing muna. And then stop the recording. Do you have concern, questions?